So I once had an amazing leader, a sergeant major that I used to work with, and he in the beginning of our relationship, he always drove me crazy when I would go talk to him, because I would go tell him like, "Hey, I think this is what we need to do," and he would always pick apart everything I was saying. Um, it took me a while to realize what he was doing was listening intently with a purpose and directly to understand what I'm saying, um, which in turn taught me how to communicate intently with a purpose, um, to convey what I was saying. Because I would go in and say something like, "I think we need to do this," and he'd be like, "You think, or you should, or you are going to," and he would try to understand and pick apart what I was. Sorry, Major.
Interesting.
And so I'd go in and be like, "I feel this." He'd be like, "First Sergeant, your job isn't to feel. What's the book say? What's the order say you have to do? What's the law? What is right?" You know? And so I would always go into it, and it taught me how to listen for the key words in a conversation to understand, because people communicate from different places, right? You go into meetings and you can hear who's communicating with emotion. You can hear who's communicating with reason. You can hear who's communicating with facts, um, in what the words they choose, right? And some people don't communicate with intention, and they're just using these things as fillers. But our ability to listen and understand and dissect what they're saying gives us the ability to ask questions to understand fully what they're getting at, right? Because if someone says, "I feel that like this is the way the company is going," like, okay, why do you feel that way? "Well, I just think we're poised to take off because we did these things." Like, okay, well, so you said feel, but you backed it up with facts. So maybe reason is telling us we're about to take off. But if you never learn how to listen for what someone is truly saying, it doesn't give you the ability to ask questions, the open and close-ended questions that give you the full understanding in order to take out true, intentional action. Because we can all go into meetings and listen to what someone says and then turn that into action. But is it intentional action? I'd rather go into a meeting and someone tell me something and ask a few questions to give me my next 10 steps, knowing that those 10 steps are in the right direction rather than just forward, right? Yeah. If there's a heading that I need to be on, I want to be on that heading when I take those 10 steps, not just north by northwest. Yeah.
What do you think is there's always a number one. There's always a big thing. So, what do you think the number one reason is that people fail to listen or lack? So you can call it ability, but it really is just it's a choice, right? It's not an ability. It's a decision, So what is the number one reason you think that people decide not to listen?
Fear.
Okay. Explain that. There's so many different, in fear, we refuse to listen. Now, there's so many things we could be afraid of. Let's unpack that.
So there's a lot, I've ran across, I don't know how many people that I'm communicating with, talking with, and I can see them formulating their response rather than listening to what they're responding.
Something triggered them at the beginning of the conversation. And I agree. I see it all the time.
Yep. So they're afraid of not knowing the answer.
Right.
So they're developing their answer out of fear.
Okay, so let's unpack each one at a time, because I think this is important for our viewers. I really do, to get something out of this. So if fear is the number one reason why people don't listen, and you just stated they could be afraid that they won't know the answer, so they lock in on one sentence and try to formulate the answer to that sentence and miss everything else in fear that they don't know the answer to this. So what is the consequence if they don't know the answer? What happens?
If they don't know the answer, then they actually in my opinion, they poise themselves to be humble.
Yeah. So
and in turn empower someone else.
okay, so why are people so afraid of humility?
It's ego. Like they're afraid.
They don't want to look stupid.
Humility and ego
Man.
don't exist in the same realm,
Yeah.
and so they are unable to let go of their ego because of their position, their stature, their ambitions. Some people are so ambitious, but that they want to, they want to achieve the top, but they're going about it the wrong way, and they view their knowing and always being the person as the way to the top.
Yeah. Okay.
That has happened to me, and you don't really know where the answer is gonna come from. And learning how to listen to everyone has helped me improve a lot. Yet it does come from a place that you don't know it all.
So to stay on target with the fear, so there's a fear of not knowing the answer.
Yeah.
Okay. What's another fear that people run into that prevents them from listening?
I would say
Not just not knowing the answer, finding out they're wrong.
no.
Okay, so learning that their illusion or whatever their belief system was incorrect. So they refuse to listen because they don't want to believe.
They're protecting their thoughts. They're protecting what they believe in. So they don't listen because even though you might be correct, they don't want to know. They already have something on their head that's correct.
My way or the highway.
That's it.
Last night, I had a dear friend of mine set me down, and he said, I'm in the middle of a very large business transaction. And he said to me, Chad, I see and I feel that you're operating out of desperation at times. Well, what did my ego want to do? It wanted to say, F you, bro. Like, you don't know. But humility said, I'm going to listen to this. Whether I believe he's speaking the truth or not, there may be some truth. I don't think in analyzing myself, I know when I am and when I'm not, because I'm very honest with myself. But there have been times where I have leaned toward that, and I had to sit there and go, okay, and listen to the criticism from my friend, whether he was a friend or not. Listening to that criticism only benefits me, if I have the courage to stomach it, right? So I say that to say that I think that if a person postures themselves to become better, and they understand that everyone that they encounter in their lives has a piece that they don't have, right? You have a piece I don't have. You have a piece I don't have. You have a knowledge through your life experience that I don't have. And if I listen to you, I can get the pieces that I'm missing. Yeah. Right? If I listen to you, how old are you?
26.
Who cares? If I listen to you, I can get the pieces that I'm missing. Right? But it takes that basic principle of me telling myself, I want to be better and I don't have it all yet. Yeah. Right? And then I'm open to receiving the criticism from my friend. Whether it hurts or not makes no difference. It is like, I want that. Whether I have the capacity to change or not, doesn't matter. I want that, right? So I think first and foremost, I think we have to decide as individuals that we want to be made whole, that we want to be knowledgeable, that we want to be better, and realizing that listening is a key to being that, right? Mm-hmm. And receiving because listening is receiving. Yeah. Hearing is nonsense, but listening is receiving. You know?
Yes.
There's something that Lane shared with me in the past, and that I actually started working on. That it's I don't think you phrased it completely like this, but it was like fixed mindset and then growth mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I believe people, and whenever I don't want to listen, it's because I believe someone else it's under me or doesn't know as much as I do. Yet if I'm able to ask questions and understand that I'm never gonna know everything, it's probably the best place to come from, because as you said, you're always receiving knowledge. This morning my mom told me something about wingers, because I'm like, I have it figured out, right?
Yeah.
I know exactly how to do it. And she's like, have you thought about this? Or my dad yesterday, like when you buy a franchise, they give you a book. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
They were already successful, and I'm trying to figure out. I have to do the market research on this and do this and do this and do this. And the answer was from someone else that just told me like, "Have you thought about the fact that there's already like a playbook?" And I was like, "Whoa, I hadn't thought of that."
Yeah. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to
Go back. You have to back up all the work you've already done.
But you're able, and it could have been like, no, I'm already so far ahead. I'm already doing this. But I'm like, no, I can complement what I know with what has already been made. And it's even better than for me to trying to be like, tap here and then go back, tap here and then go back. I can establish something and then improve on top of it. And I think that's how we should look at listening, and that it can. I've seen all of the people that are, well, no, I have not seen all of the people, but I've seen a bunch of people that are successful, that they just keep listening. There's a famous video of Elon Musk, and they tell him, a reporter tells him something about the rocket ship, and the next model he changes it, and it just makes it so much better. So even if that guy is listening, I believe we should too.
Yeah. So I also here's I mean, this is my opinion. But if I am a leader of an organization, a leader of a team, and someone comes to give me their thoughts, the second I start thinking down on that person and thinking like, they don't know. You know, I have 20 years of experience in the industry. They don't know. Well, if they truly don't know, then I need to understand what they don't know, which means I have to listen. Because if they don't know, that's on me. I am their leader. And if they don't know it, truly don't know it, then I should intently listen to fully understand what they don't know.
So that you can help them.
So that I can help them.
Understand.
And on the off chance that they caught something I missed, that's a win-win.
Yeah.
If they are wildly off base and have truly no idea what they're talking about, at least I know it now and can address it.
But I think that's also a win-win, because then you
It
know
is.
who your staff is and what the issue is. Maybe they're thinking, oh, it's because we're gonna go out of business, so I'm actually looking for another job already.
Yeah.
You know, so their head's not there. But if you didn't have that conversation and if you didn't listen, you didn't think that it was going down when you thought it was going up. Like the company, you thought it was going up, and the employees was like, might be
Yeah.
the last 2 months.
I can tell you.
Well, so there's danger in listening too. There's extreme danger in listening, because there are certain foundational things that we believe that affect everything in our lives. And there is a listening filter that we must apply. We should always listen, but not always absorb. Okay? So if someone said to me, this is the way you have to do it, I have to decide whether or not it aligns with my core values, right? And whether that statement, this is the way you have to do it, aligns with my belief on, like, my core belief, right? And if it does not align, I can still listen, but I don't have to absorb, right? So what is the difference between listening and absorbing? or, you know, because I said a minute ago that listening and receiving are the same, but I don't know that that's true, because I can listen to you and not take your information as fact.
Yeah.
And not modify my behavior or my thinking process based on the information you communicated.
Well, I don't think listening, so absorbing or internalizing information as facts, it can be very dangerous, right? But I think where listening empowers you is when you take the information and rather than using it as the new guiding light,
Yes.
or the new you, you put it into your decision making cycle. You know, whether it's yeah, you take pieces, right? Um, but that's where discernment comes in, and your ability to pick through those things and decide what fits your ethics, what fits your values, what doesn't. But also, it is our responsibility when someone is giving us information that doesn't fit our values, is to ask the questions to understand why something is the way it is in their mind, to figure out if it is a reality based situation, a perception based situation, to determine, because I don't know how many times someone's told me like, this is the way it is, this is the way it's done.
I hate that.
And I hate it.
I can't stand that.
I hate it. Because to me, we as a society,
Yes.
if we said this is the way it is, if we accept that as an answer, then we would be riding around in horse and buggies, right?
So I have a very, man, when it comes to creating a better world, like it starts and it's all of us. It's all of us. It's all of our responsibility. And it's how we interact with each other in every circumstance, business, personal, everything. If we want to make this place worth a damn, we have to change the way we interact. So, in that regard, there is a ton of trash in business, right? So if I'm going to do a business deal, right, you've got one person that's expecting to get taken advantage of, another person that's expecting to get taken advantage of. All right. So both parties go to the table expecting that everyone's going to pull and take as much as they are allowed to take. I'm going to tell you something. That's bullshit. I absolutely hate that about society, because it never ends, right? It's never ending that everybody has to be then assholes, right? And I think it's bullshit.
It is.
So it's my belief that a fair deal is the way. Not I'm the bigger guy and I'm going to eat you because I'm bigger. It's the fair deal. It's right by you, right by me. Let's both do the honorable thing. That's what I believe is a good business deal. However, I say this to say that, you know, successful entrepreneurs will come at me and say, you're never going to succeed that way because you're always going to get taken advantage of. And you're going to have to do it this way. You're going to have to be the bigger shark. I listen to that. I hear it, but I don't agree with it. So listening and agreeing are two completely different things. Yeah. In this regard, I listen, but I still am determining whether I believe that is true or not. You know, it goes back to this is the way it is.
Yeah.
You know, I understand that this is the way it is, but I don't think this is the way that it should be. And if I continue to operate in the way it is because it's just the way it is, it will never become what it should be or could be.
Yeah.
So
I know I've asked people many times when they tell me like, this is how we do it. And I've asked them like, and we can't get any better. There is no room for improvement in anything we do, because if this is the way we do it, that must mean that there is no way it could ever be better. And they're like, well, I got an idea. Like, okay, well, let's do that then. Let's take the ideas and put them back in the decision-making cycle. But that also, to what you were talking about, is I've been a part of we're bringing teams together many times. That were some of them competing teams, some of them just teams that could operate independently and mean nothing to the other team, right? And now they're just coming together. But I have actually had to like stop meetings and say like everybody in this room is listening defensively. Like you are listening for how someone is trying to get at you.
Yes.
And nobody in here is thinking about how we are going to get better together. You're just thinking about how someone is trying to get at you, how someone is trying to undermine what you're doing, and you are listening defensively. And when you'd be surprised how often when you can tell someone like this is how you are listening, and if they are receptive, they will be like,
True.
they're right.
Yeah.
I am. I'm not hearing anything. I'm hearing everything. I'm not listening to anything that's being said because I am protecting myself. And that same thing happens in more than just the business world, right? Because relationships are like a life cycle, right? Some lives are longer than others, but in that infant stage of a relationship, when you're coming, whether it's a new friend, a new partner, they listen more protected because they're trying to guard themselves, you know? And as that relationship grows, they communicate more vulnerably. Someone's more willing to say, this is my dreams. You may on first date with someone, them say, these are my dreams. And then 6 months, those dreams haven't changed. A year, those dreams haven't changed. But there's the why behind those dreams may be able to come out. The vulnerability in that person may be able to come out. And so being able to listen to people as that relationship grows and develops and ages through that life cycle is empowering.
I like what you're saying, and I like what Chad was saying. I think sometimes, at least on my part, it has been hard to listen because I think people are out to get me. So
So again, it goes back to what Lane first said. The
same.
reason we don't listen is fear.
It's
So
fear.
let's continue.
It's fear, and what you were saying, like in business and a relationship, like if you're guarding yourself, like you don't really want to listen to anyone else. You have your idea of how this meeting is supposed to go, and this is the way it's gonna go. And if it doesn't go this way, it's bad.
Yeah.
But you already entered that conversation with that negative attitude. Uh, Same like I was thinking, right? With how to communicate certain things to the team starting Monday. Like I need to listen to what they need
Absolutely.
because I'm like I think I have the solutions, but I'm trying to solve problems that I don't know.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, it has just been really hard with the way society has been for people to open up, and I believe that's what we're gonna be able to change if we're dealing in good faith. People are more willing to listen because they know you're there to help.
So
You come from a place of love.
yeah.
Okay, George, you haven't. Why didn't you do this? It doesn't come from a place that I'm trying to give you smack. It comes from a place that I know you're capable.
Right.
You should be doing this. So, as you were saying, communicating in a different way might be helpful for us to learn how to listen and be willing to listen. Those are my thoughts because I've been at a point that I don't want to look bad and I don't want to listen, and this is the way it should be done.
It's no way to live, is it?
It's, but then,
Miserable.
yeah, but you're never improving because if you know all of the answers, Like, why are you still here then?
Stay right there, right?
If you know all of the answers, you should be a trillionaire and have mansions and develop everything because you already know it all, right?
It's dangerous to walk through life with that defensive listening and defensive mindset, because it's not something that easily turns on and off. So you can, if you're in the business world and you are constantly listening defensively because that's the situation you've put yourself in and the people you surrounded yourself with, then when you go home, your inherent strategy for listening is defensively. And now you've put yourself against your family, against your partner by because that's how you come home. You know, all day I've been looking at how someone was trying to take advantage of me. And then you come home and it's hard to take that off.
There's nothing worse than a defensive posture, like communicating to someone with a defensive posture. I honestly am at the point in my life where I just can't. Like I have the ability to, I just won't.
You're not gonna spend it.
I just won't. So if I'm speaking to someone and they're defensive, like I stop. Like I'm not gonna counter that. Like it is apparent that you do not want to hear what I have to say, and that's okay. Let me know when you're ready, and I will continue. Like I'm not gonna battle you. You know, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here to demean you. I'm not here to criticize you. But
there are those moments though where we have to. Like it is imperative, not for my success, but maybe the success of my team that I am responsible for, that I learn how to deal with this person. And dealing with that person doesn't mean always how do I communicate to them why they're always listening defensively. Maybe that is, let me take a step back, develop a relationship with that person to
that allows them to lower
their defenses so that where we can have a conversation. And sometimes that is as simple as let's put this on hold. We're not getting anywhere. Let's go get coffee as people,
as regular people,
and then let's come back and put our business hats back on.
you don't know how many times I have had to do that. I'm sure you as well. You engage with an employee or a subordinate, and you can tell that they're not receiving. They're like, yes, sir, and they're not really receiving. So you do have to bring in the personal approach to get them to trust what you have to say. You can tell they're hiding things. You can tell, you know.
Trust is a hard thing to get.
Well, man, trust isn't something that you should. Trust is such a delicate thing, man. You shouldn't give it away. People have to earn it, but you have to be willing to allow them the opportunity to earn it, right? We have to be open enough to allow someone the opportunity and then be honest enough with ourselves to know that they are not or that they are, right? And that also ties back into listening, you know, not making someone better than they are, listening to them, watching them, observing them, listening and paying attention so that you can decide and formulate how much you can trust them. You know, how wise it is to trust them to what level, right? And we do that through listening, you know, by listening to how they communicate about other people, by listening to how they communicate about things. And, you know, we can determine whether or not at what level we can trust them. Listening's so damn important.
It is.
So damn important.
It is.
I am a super observer. Maybe there's a reason I was a Ford observer in the Marines, but I am a very observant person, not for the purpose of like criticizing or anything like that, but because my desire is to bring people in. Like my desire is to build a bigger community and to allow more trust, you know? So I am always like on the lookout for a person of character, you know? So when I'm listening to conversation, I'm listening to how people talk shit on other people. I'm listening to how they're talking shit about their wives. I'm listening to how they're complaining. I'm listening to how they're, speaking words of encouragement or speaking with love and speaking with respect. I'm listening to all of this shit. And I'm using subconsciously I'm using all of that data to determine how closely or how trustworthy that person is, right? Super fucking important. Excuse my language. It's super important to listen. It's super important. I mean, I'm always paying attention. Always. Always. Not in some creepy ass way, but because my desire is to trust to the biggest degree that I'm able to.
Yeah.
Like I want to bring you in as close as I can, but I'm going to make sure that it's the right decision. I'm not going to foolishly bring someone in,
Calculated trust.
Yes. And so I have to listen. And if someone is out here and I still want them in, I will help guide them so that I can, but I have to listen to them.
There's opportunities to bring them close.
Right. But I can't, I don't surround myself with toxic behavior anymore. Like I don't surround myself with people that speak negatively and that talk trash on people, that gossip and slander and all of that crap. I can't surround myself with that anymore. I don't do it. And I can tolerate it, but I slowly just excuse myself from that environment. It isn't a desire of mine. If I am around someone, maybe they're not gossiping or talking trash on someone, but they're constantly negative, constantly hopeless. And I've tried to encourage them, tried to bring hope into their lives. But every time I go around them, it's like constant, hopeless, constant sadness, constant life sucks. I have to separate myself from that too. But it all is in regard to listening. Like I have to listen to determine the circle that I engage in.
So we've all been in that point in our lives where we were miserable, right? That things sucked. Everything we saw through a very negative lens. And if you think about it, like someone who grew up in a different country and then moved here and has spent some time in America, and their accent goes away. Well, that accent comes right back when they're surrounded by their family and their friends back home. That comes right back. That same culture comes right back to them.
If they didn't spend enough time in the other country.
Well, if they didn't, but it still naturally wants to come back in.
Naturally wants.
And so when we are able to climb out of that negative, that miserable place of our lives, when we are willing to step back into that, we are so much more susceptible when we surround ourselves with that, to go back to that mentality, to allow that accent, that lens of negativity to filter back into our lives. And it's dangerous.
I don't know. It's dangerous and it's also so quick. So at the beginning of the week, I told you guys, I'm moving a little bit slower. So I think on Tuesday, it was one of my friend's birthday, right? And I went out with them. I don't know. I went and we grabbed food after work. And then we were going to go and we were going to grab a couple of drinks. And then at the end of the night, I was like, I wasted so much time. And tomorrow I'm not going to be able to be myself and move in the direction that I have to.
Doesn't that suck so hard?
And it was so weird. That's that day, the day that I texted you guys, I felt so guilty all day.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing? Like if we're
Yeah.
no, it was so bad. Like that's why I was like, these guys are gonna hold me accountable. I need to communicate with them because they're expecting me to be something that I cannot be today because of the decision that I made yesterday. Not just that, but it was so natural to go back into that.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I was in that environment, it was just like the same way you're able to flip the switch on certain things. It was like if I had never left.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it and I was like, did I have fun? Yes, it was important for me to be there for my friend. Yes. Yet the next day I analyzed and I was like, what's happening? Like this is not who I am anymore.
Yeah.
And then the coming back was hard because then you're like, oh, maybe you're not out of what you were doing, you know, who you are, you know.
Yeah.
Then it has to do not just with I know we were talking about listening, but your surrounding and who are you listening to matters.
It does.
You can listen to a lot of people, but as you were saying, like you put in and you take what makes you better, not just any information that it's given to you. So
But you can listen from a position of power, right? Like for me, like I know that the super fun party lane is still in there. I know that I could walk out of this room today and go be the life of a party at a bar and have a blast, right? And then be in that same situation. And that may feel like what I have to do in order to foster some of these relationships that I want to maintain, to be still continue to be a friend, but I don't have to. I can go and listen and be that present person at the coffee shop.
I agree.
Sure, you may not feel as loose and as jolly because you didn't have 18 drinks in your system, but I can still listen and be a part of someone's life, but from a position of power, from the decisions because where I listen is also important. You know, if I want to, if I'm wanting to have a meaningful conversation, I'm not going to have it at a Thunder game. You know, I'm not going to Loud City for my next big listening situation. There is power in building those relationships and going to games with people and having shared experiences. But if listening is the goal, that's not the venue, right?
It's also that I agree, but there's for me, I love that. It goes back to what you were saying. Even though things have been done that way, it doesn't mean that they have to continue to be done that way. I could have, as you said, maybe fostered that relationship in a different way, take care of that relationship in a different way. You know, like it didn't have to compromise what I had to do next, but be part of who I am. And it could have been coffee, it could have been lunch, it could have been many other things. It didn't have to be that, you
Yeah.
know. But that comes from a place that I'm like, okay, I did at that moment I didn't know better or I didn't choose better, and now I'm in this position.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't know. I want you to we were talking about trust. Would you give the example of the wound? How would you show a wound to someone?
How you up?
Show a wound like when they cut you?
Yeah. So we talked about that before, right?
So, trust is limited where there is wounds, right? And rightfully so, because it's a tender spot, And I, I mean, I see things, I see visually things that I understand. So I see trust as like, if you have an infected wound, right? And it hurts, like an infected wound hurts, right? And you don't know this person, you're not going to allow them to have access to that tender spot that if they touch it, it could, cripple you, right? So you have to decide first if you're going to even share that you have the wound. Then you have to decide if you're going to take your hand off the wound. Then you have to decide if you're going to show the wound. Then you have to decide if you're going to let them heal the wound or help, right? So, yeah, trust, that's the dance, right? And you cannot let anyone in because a lot of people don't have the intention to help you heal your wound. They have the intention of capitalizing on that wound and twisting in that wound. And so, yeah, listening to people helps to identify how deeply you can trust the people. And how deeply you can trust is how vulnerable and open and honest you can be without risking them trying to capitalize, right? So the Bible says, do not give your pearls to pigs, or they will turn and trample you to the ground. So the pearls, how is a pearl developed? We should all know how a pearl is developed. It's developed through a wound. And it is a piece of debris that has gotten into an oyster. And the oyster, to protect itself from getting cut, the saliva or the excretion coats that sand around that pearl, and it develops that pearl. Okay, so a pearl is a vulnerability. A pearl is a vulnerability. Do not share your vulnerabilities with pigs, or they will turn and trample you to the ground. Listening tells you whether or not someone is a pig or to what. Look, we're all fucking pigs. Not one of us is perfect. We all have pig. We all have pig in us. But we have to determine at what level of dirt we are, right? Seriously, there's some people out there that are super pigs that you can't trust them with shit. And then there's people you can trust to a deeper level, right? And there's people you trust with every effing thing, right? That's why we listen, to determine how much vulnerability we can share, right? I mean, to me, that's what it's all about. Like, I want to unite a squad, you know? I like team, I like relationships. So to me, listening to understand who a person is and allow them in is important to me. So we talked about listening and what prevents it, why it's valuable. But the last thing I wanted to ask is, what makes for a good listener?
So
Someone that people want to speak to.
to me, it's someone who listens without an agenda.
Without an agenda?
Yeah.
Like, not critical, not judgmental,
Not looking for where they're going to capitalize.
not trying to teach.
Yep.
All of those things. Can you rattle off a list of things that make a good listener? I mean, we said not critical, not judgmental, not trying to teach. What are some other things that?
So not trying to take advantage of someone, not trying to figure out their angle, right? I've been in those. You've been in those conversations where someone is listening, and it's almost like you can see their mental checklist, all right? And so they're going through and gathering the information on how they're going to. And salespeople are the best at it. Salespeople are the best at it, and I can see this.
Be like that. I'll punch you in your fucking.
I can see it, and I will call them on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Listen to me.
But it's when someone comes to truly understand where you are coming from, what you are saying, that is what makes a good listener to me.
What about
Distracted? Someone who's not distracted. A good listener is certainly not someone who's checking on their phone.
No, absolutely.
That is hard work.
Yeah. Well, it's called respect.
It is.
And it's called giving a shit about who you're communicating to. So when I listen, I look in people's eyes because I want them to know that I'm listening to them and they have the floor, and I'm giving them the floor by looking in their eyes. I'm saying, you have the floor. I'm respecting you. Please speak.
And I think, I used to do this, and I thought it always benefited me, and it also helped whoever I was listening to. They would come in, I'd have people come into my office for, questions, counseling, whatever it was. And I would take my phone and I would put it in my desk drawer and I would close it. That way they knew that they were my focus, right? And there is psychology in our body language when we present ourselves to people. And like what you were talking about, the wounds, your vulnerabilities. I actually went through a course one time that taught tactical questioning and how to read people. And one of the psychology things that they taught us was like if you're out on a date, and as that date is progressing, as your counterpart, if they are more willing to show like expose their wrists and neck to you, they are displaying more vulnerability because those are the vulnerable spots on their body. And they are more willing to be open to you. And so whenever I am trying to be a good listener, I will orient my body to that person to communicate to them that they are my focus. If I'm wanting to build trust with a person, I will mimic their body language to an extent that doesn't compromise who I am in order to show them that I am with them, right?
Like you're being intentional with
Yes.
everything that you're doing on your listening.
Yes. Because to me, listening is a given, it is a give and give, right? So I'm asking someone to give me information. And in turn, the way I am responding with my facial expressions, my body language, directly feeds into what else they are going to give me.
Okay.
If someone's like, here's what I think, and I'm like,
People fail to understand this so much.
And I can't, to me, it's hard to comprehend. So much of it comes natural at this point, right? But I love to dissect the natural,
yeah,
and that's what I like about this podcast, is that we take what's normal and we dissect it so that other people can understand it.
I want to say that another attribute it's honesty on listening, like communicating. I was with Riley Saturday, and I was talking with him. He was telling me things, and I'm like, "You're giving me all of this information. This is what I'm planning to do." So then he understands that the information that it's shared with me, it's that I'm trying to learn from him, what I'm trying to improve on, that like just putting that thought out there and communicating with him where my mind was on my future was important for me to maintain that relationship and for him to know where I was coming from and why I wanted to learn. So that for me was really important because I'm like, right now, I think like I'm stealing information. I don't like feeling that way. Like I'm listening to you and I'm paying attention, but I feel like I'm stealing information. So I was like, look, before we continue, this is my mind. This is where my plans are. I don't know if it's the same, but I wanted to put it out there because now I can listen and you know why I'm listening. Like it's honest.
yeah,
It's honest
yes.
listening. You know, I want to learn and some things are doing great. And maybe I can also, because there's things that I told him that are also positive, where it's like, I need you to know where I'm coming from.
It is I used to call that informed consent.
Yeah, it's good.
And whenever someone would come to talk to me, I'd be like, whoa, I am your boss, just so you know.
Yes.
You're going to tell me what you're going to tell me, but I just need you to know there are some things you can't unsay,
Yeah.
right? Or on the flip side, where people come to me with their personal problems, when it is medical stuff, I'm like, hold on, I just want you to know I'm here to listen if you want to talk, but you don't have to tell me these things. These are your medical problems,
Yeah.
and I will help you to the best of my ability, but I just need you to know, just because I'm your boss doesn't mean you have to tell me your medical problems. And giving them that right.
Yeah.
And I've been in that situation where you're like, hey man, like
Yeah.
you're telling me stuff.
Yeah.
I just need you to be honest and upfront with you in the beginning, because I don't want this to continue on an uneven ground. You know, one of my buddies, Pakeet McBride, gave me one of the best pieces of info of like knowledge I've ever received. And he's very close with his teenage daughters, and but he was geographically separated from them for a long time. And they would call him all the time, and they'd call him and he could tell like there's something going on. And he'd stop the conversation. Hold on. Are you calling me because you want me to listen or because you want me to solve? Because the way he listened, like the way he wanted to know, does it right now, are you wanting me to just listen? You just need someone to talk to, someone to vent to, or you want someone who's going to give you the answers to help you work through this problem? Because there's nothing worse than going to someone to be like, I just need to get this off my chest. And then they in turn are telling you what they think you should do. Like, that's not why I'm here. And so he would level the playing field at the very beginning of those conversations. Because in order to save those relationships that were great and let them to continue to develop, he wanted to know what the expectation was.
That's good.
And
Like that.
yeah,
I would like for us, if we're gonna close, if one thing that we can do to listen better before we close,
one thing we can do to listen better.
to improve our listening.
Yeah.
Something that we can actually.
Got
Okay.
Give a shit.
Yeah.
Give a shit.
Good. That's perfect.
And
That's the one thing you can that you can do to improve your listening abilities. Give a shit.
right. And I always used to, I used to tell people, I'm not gonna stay clean, I guess, on this, but like I used to tell people, like, I got 8 fucks to give today. I only have 8.
All right, Lane, that's a little too far. Sorry, guys. Lane's out the gate.
But so if you have stuff, come to me. But I'm not giving all those away today.
Yeah.
Because some of those are reserved.
What are you not giving away?
My give a fucks.
Oh.
That's funny.
But like you when you're there's only so much bandwidth your body, your mind, your emotions have.
Yeah, and you have to know how much you have to give.
Yeah,
But try to give. But give some. But freaking give some.
I need to take some of those home with me.
Yeah, you do. You gotta save some. You gotta save some.
Because there's other people that deserve them.
Yep.
But another tip I have is, and this is hard for me, right? And especially with this team where we are very driven individuals, but I have to intentionally leave my phone on the counter whenever I am going to spend time with family.
Yeah.
Because the second it starts to buzz, whether or not I look at it or not, I'm like, how important is that? I wonder what's being said right now. Yeah. And so
Everyone sees.
And I am listening to teach.
You can bet your
With
ass.
my kids.
If I want to make someone feel important, I do not look at that damn phone. If I want to make them feel less, I will look at that damn phone.
Yeah.
Telling you.
Yeah. And they get my full attention unless the
Yeah.
Thunder's playing.
When my daughter has something to say to me, what happened?
I said they get my full attention unless the Thunder's playing.
Well, the socks say it all.
Guys,
That's been great.
it has been great. I love you guys.
Me too.
And thank you for the listeners on listen. Thank you guys.
Thank you for listening.